Okay, so we're picking up where we left off in our previous video. We're working with the rotation sensor. We've just introduced the serial monitor. You can see it running in the background. And I wanted to add a couple additional pieces of complexity to this program. And so what we're going to do is add additional conditions. And instead of having it just asking the question, is it above or below, greater than or lesser than the 512, we're going to add some additional pieces of information here. So let's take this number that we have here and reduce it a bit. So we're going to ask, is it less than, let's say, 200? And if it is, we're going to turn on the LED. Next, we're going to do a similar thing, and rather than just write it out, I'm going to just copy it. Okay, so copy. You'll notice I just made a mistake here. You'll notice in the process of erasing something, I left something undone. And this is where you can run into a lot of problems. This closing curly bracket, I erased some pieces of the program. I didn't erase that. And by not erasing that, I might be missing pieces of information later on. So it's important to make sure that you don't do what I just did there. And also why it's sometimes helpful to do some commentary on closing brackets. So you can say this is connected to the if statement of things that are less than 200. That way you don't lose track of what these closing brackets are connected to. We're checking one condition. Is that value less than 200? Now we can also say, is it greater than, let's say, 800. If it's greater than 800, it's going to turn it off. So we're going to make it low. And so now we're going to do one more. We're going to copy this just to make it easier. And we're going to ask it two comparisons. Is it greater than or equal to 200 to start? The first question we're going to be asking, is it less than 200? And then later on in the program, we're going to ask if it's equal to 200 or greater. And then we're also going to say, and, this is the second condition, is the rotational or rotation value less than or equal to 800. And then we're going to make it do something completely different. And so why don't we make it flash? Okay, so we're going to say, turn the LED on. I'm going to say delay 100, so that's a tenth of a second, and then we're going to digital write that again, LED pin low, so we're going to turn it off, and then we're going to put another delay on that. And so what this is going to do is flash on off every tenth of a second. And so we have our opening curly bracket for this if statement, and we have the end. And as we do for that. And so how the program is going to now run is as it rolls down through the program, the first thing it's going to do is give the value of what it reads on this pin, this analog read, and it's going to apply it to the value. Now we're going to print that to the monitor by using this line here. Next we're going to ask a first question of if. So if the value of that kind of rotational dial, the sensor we have, if it's less than 200, we're going to turn the LED to high. We're going to turn it on. If it's less than 800, we're going to turn it off. And so if this condition is not met, it just bypasses this, goes down to here, and goes to the very next line. And then we're going to ask a third question. And this one has to meet two conditions. It has to meet the fact that it's greater than 200 and less than or equal to 800. And we're going to, when it's between those brackets, between the 200 and 800, it's going to flash. So let's go ahead and upload this and see how this works. We're also going to open up our serial monitor just so that we can kind of look at what's happening here. So just as we left off, we still have it kind of dialed into around the 900 range. If we go a little bit higher, we're going to go right up to its maximum, which is 1023. So right now the LED is off. You can see that in this video here. I'm going to start dialing this down. So we're above 800, which is why it's off. It's greater than 800. Now we're getting close to 800, and as soon as we cross that threshold, we're going to start flashing. So we're now in that condition that we see in this section here of being equal or greater to 200, and yet equal or less than 800. And if we look back at the Arduino, we're going to come down to less than 200, and all of a sudden it'll stay on. So this is a way of adding a little bit of complexity to your programs. Right now we're using a rotational sensor, but you could also add this to any sensor that provides a bit of analog information. So it could be a photo sensor which reads the luminosity in the space around it. And so if it's very bright, you could have the LED on. If it's slightly darker, maybe it flashes. And if it's dark, maybe the LED turns off. And so there's different ways that you can use this. We're going to take the same program and we're going to add a second element. We have our LED light. We're going to add a relay to the mix.